What's up, everybody here, and welcome to my official Premier League predictions for Matchday 7 on this video. We'll start things off for tomorrow night's game, Friday Night Football, between AFC Bournemouth and Fulham. Big game this will be at the Vitality Stadium between the two sides. Obviously, looking for more points under their name in 7 games in the Premiership season. As obviously Bournemouth, they've got a point, sneakily got a point over Leeds last week. But as of for Fulham, they lost 3-1 to Aston Villa. And this matchup will be a very, let's say, close call game between Bournemouth and also Fulham, in my opinion, about this prediction. So I'm going to go for I'm probably going to go for a Bournemouth win because they've been more the better team this season, where the positions are in the league. And Bournemouth, of course, have been having a very good season, obviously. And Andoni Areola has really punched Bournemouth more above their weight. And also Asemio, if he's fit tomorrow as well, I think he'll be on the score sheet also. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for AFC Bournemouth. It might be a tough game though, despite Fulham travelling to Bournemouth. But I think that Bournemouth will scrape the win. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for AFC Bournemouth. Now we move on to the 12:30 kickoff at Ellen Road on Saturday between Leeds United and also Spurs. And Spurs have been, let's say, that bogey team, sort of. Like last week they drew to the team who are bottom of the Premier League, Wolves, and got a late goal-by-goal from Paulinho in that game. But, however, they have got, obviously, had their moments, of course, Spurs, losing to Bournemouth, almost losing to Wolves at home last week. And obviously Spurs are Spurs as always. Always Spurs, don't know they do. They do travel to Leeds at Ellen Road. Obviously, Ellen Road's going to be a very tough place to go for Tottenham because they've got a massive fan base, Leeds United. And Leeds, of course, have got the real, let's say, attentions, of course, with a good home record during this season so far. Their home record's a lot better than they are away from home, despite that away win to Wolves a few weeks back. But it'll be a tough game, though. It won't be an easy game for Tottenham, though. I know that Leeds, of course, got up to the Premiership, but they've been okay, in the last, let's say, 6 matches. They've got themselves 8 points in the bag so far and not anywhere near the bottom 3. So, in my honest prediction between Leeds and Tottenham, I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 2-2, in my opinion. I think Leeds will get some goals. I think Spurs will get some goals. I feel that Tottenham should probably on paper win the game over Leeds because they are obviously a team who came straight up from the Championship last season. But I think Leeds will give it a go, and I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw between Leeds and Spurs at Ellen Road. Now we move on to the next matchup. It's Arsenal. They take on against West Ham United at 3 o'clock kickoff, and this will be a very, very big game. This will be for the Gunners, of course. Did very, very well last week. Got that late goal against Newcastle by a goal from Gabriel to win Arsenal the game. I didn't expect Arsenal to actually get that win, of course. Obviously, Newcastle been good in the first half. And then, obviously, Arsenal got themselves 2 goals and they won away from home. That's going to really, let's say, give a little bit of less confidence for Liverpool, of course, as we're only 2 points behind them in the league so far. So, easy game, I think this will be. West Ham United, of course, got a new manager of Nuno Espirito Santo. Got a draw in his first game from his first managerial game in charge against Everton on Monday Night Football. But I do think that Arsenal will definitely get the win. And I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Arsenal on Saturday. Now we move on to the other game at 3 o'clock. Will be between Manchester United and Sunderland. And Sunderland have been having a very absolute wonderful season so far. 11 points in the bag in the Premier League. And that massive win over Forest last week was a big win for Sunderland. And you cannot, let's say, write them off this season because they've been absolutely marvellous. And Granit Xhaka, that leadership as well in that midfield as well will really help Sunderland this season. They do travel to play Manchester United, however, and not had a very, let's say, good season so far. They had their hits and misses. They did very, very well to obviously beat Chelsea and did very, very well to win. Well, didn't really do very, very well, but they actually scraped the win over Burnley a few weeks back. Only 2 wins in the season so far, and also got knocked out in the League Cup as well. Not very good under Ruben Almiron. I think Ruben Almiron is going to be the real hot manager. I think he'll probably get sacked maybe soon. I don't really see an identity at Man United, I don't really think, to be honest with you. But as of the Sunderland's form, of course, even at winning against Forest as well last week, could they get 2 away wins straight? It will be a very tough one to ask about that one. So, as they're newly promoted to the Premier League as well, and Man United, of course, are at home, I think that it will be a draw in that game. I'm going to go for a goalless draw between Sunderland and United. I think Sunderland will play very good football, I think, at Old Trafford, but I don't think United will be, let's say, critical enough in goal to try and beat past the goalkeeper to score goals against him, because Sunderland have been very, very good. They've been so far this season, and they're at home as well. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw between United and Sunderland on the weekend. Now we move on to 5:30 kickoff on Saturday between Chelsea and Liverpool. This was a very, very, very big matchup. This is going to be for both sides. Chelsea, obviously the team that got themselves that momentum in terms of winning a few games this season. Did very, very badly last week to lose to Brighton 2-1 at home. That defeat, probably you might see that Chelsea will have their hits and misses. Did lose 2 consecutive games so far already in the Premier League. They've lost to United, and also they lost to in their last matchup to Brighton at home. So I don't think Chelsea lose 3 games straight. I do fancy Chelsea getting a win over Liverpool, to be honest, because last week Liverpool lost in the last minute by a goal from Eddie Nketiah from Crystal Palace, former Arsenal player, to actually stop Liverpool from winning the game, of course, from last week. But as Chelsea are their home team, and Chelsea have lost some form so far, I do fancy Chelsea getting the win at Stamford Bridge, in my opinion. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Chelsea, and I think Chelsea will beat Liverpool at their ground on the weekend. Now we move on to the Sunday's games. We've got a lot of games on Sunday. We've got at least 5 games to predict, of course, on Sunday before we go to international break for next week. But we do have this matchup here, as we have Aston Villa and they take on against Burnley. Well, since Villa played very, very well last week and got their first win of the Premier League season, and they're playing Burnley, a newly promoted side, of course, are probably favourites to go straight back down, despite Burnley got a draw over Forest from last week. I do think that Villa will get the win easily. I'm going to go for 4-0. I'm going to go for Villa. Villa to win 4-0 at Villa Park. I don't see Burnley get anything out of the game. Maybe Jadon Anthony might be on the score sheet potentially so for Burnley. He's probably a real top player in the Burnley side so far when he scored that goal a few weeks back. So I think that for this game, I think that Villa will definitely get 2 wins straight, and 4-0 my prediction. Now we move on to the game at the new stadium of Everton's, as Everton will play at home to the great biggest form of Crystal Palace so far this season. And Crystal Palace have been absolutely amazing, of course. Beaten Liverpool 2-1 last week, and also in the top 3 of the Premier League as well. What a great start to Oliver Glasner as manager for Crystal Palace this season. They do play Everton though. Everton's had their moments. They've not been anywhere in the relegation fight at all, because Everton's always usually be down there a lot. But they've been quite good under David Moyes, very solid under David Moyes. And obviously Jack Grealish makes a huge difference, I think, for Everton's team as well. This will be a very tight game, I think. I don't think that Palace will get a win out of this game, as they did, of course, against Liverpool from last week. So I'm going to go for a draw in this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between Everton and Palace. I don't think Palace will get anything of a victory in this game, so I'm going to go for a draw between Everton and the Palace. Now we move on to the next matchup, as we do have Newcastle, the home team, and they take on against Nottingham Forest. And we know how big this game will really be for Forest, especially because Forest obviously have not picked up their win yet since that first game of the season, when obviously Nuno was in charge. They won 3-1 to Brentford in that game. But Forest have been very, very slow. They've been. They lost to Arsenal. They lost in the League Cup to Swansea. They got a draw to Real Betis. Probably the best performance for Ange, I think, for Forest. And also drawing to Burnley last week. So, in a way, Newcastle will definitely be on form in this game because did very, very well, of course, from yesterday's game against Union Saint-Gilles in the Champions League. Obviously, Newcastle, unfortunately, feel a bit bitter, I think, after losing to Arsenal 2-1 in the last matchup at home as well. A late goal from Gabriel. And as of this game's at home for Newcastle, and as of Forest are not in that form so far this season, I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Newcastle. Newcastle will get the win, they'll get the 3 points, and it'll be a huge win for Eddie Howe's men beating Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Then we have this game here. We have Wolves versus Brighton, and these two teams are not doing as great so far in the Premier League, especially Wolves though. But maybe the biggest good thing about Wolves is they got a big draw over Spurs last week. They could have probably win that game personally by an upset because Wolves have been very, very shocking this season. And I feel that as they're playing at home to Brighton, this is going to be a very, very interesting down the line game, I think, because I think Wolves have to get results. They've got to get wins because they only draw 1 game this season. No wins so far in the record this season. So this is a very, very big game for Wolves. However, for Brighton, they obviously want to try and get some results in the bag as well, as they're obviously dipping down the table slightly. So in a way, I'd say favourites, Brighton will probably win this game. I haven't seen much of Brighton so far this season, what they can perform over maybe a team like Wolves. They've got to play at Molineux on Sunday. But as I'm going to be honest about this prediction, and as Wolves have been shocking so far this season, I think Brighton will win. I think Brighton will get the 3 points, and I think Brighton will only win by a 1-0 victory at Molineux to Wolverhampton Wanderers. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Brighton. Now we move on to the next game. It's going to be Brentford. Big form so far, Brentford, under Keith Andrews. They take on Manchester City, another Manchester club they've got to play at the G-Tech Stadium. Because their last game they played at home to another Manchester club was Manchester United, and they won that game 3-1 at West London from last weekend. And that was a big win under, obviously, Keith Andrews in charge as manager now for Brentford. Since they've lost all these players and since they've got to mould together now as his new Brentford team, they did pretty well so far, Brentford, to get a draw over Chelsea, get that big win over United as well. They've got 7 points in the bag they've got so far in the Premier League. But they do play Man City, however, because that's a big talking point, because Man City is a bigger side, a better side than Brentford. And I don't think this is another story of them playing Man United again and beat them. I don't think this game with Man City. I think City will get the win, and I think Haaland will be on the score sheet. And I'll guarantee myself that I think Man City will win the game over Brentford by 3-0. And I think Haaland will be on the score sheet. And I do think that they're going to really win that game very easily, I think. So I'm going 3-0, my instincts, between Brentford and City, as City win the game 3-0. That's all we have time for, by the way, of the coverage of my predictions of Matchday 7 before we get to the international break for next week. And I hope you all enjoyed this content and also enjoy my videos, of course, I put out of my predictions of the Premier League. But I do have a video coming out, of course, on Saturday evening on this account, because I'm going to got tickets to go and watch Stevenage play Luton Town. A big proper derby between Stevenage and Luton. And I hope you stay tuned to that on Saturday when I post it on YouTube. Hopefully when I edit it all, of course, at midnight on Sunday morning. So I really hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing my predictions on Matchday 7. And that'll be it for the whole video of my predictions. Thank you for watching, and peace out.